and welcome everyone. My name is Peace Mitchell and I am co-founder of the Women's Business School and Osmompreneur. And today is day 3 of the Back Yourself Festival. And we're hearing from a whole host of our wonderful authors today. First up this morning, we have Katrina Wurm. Hi, Katrina, how are you?
Yes, good morning, Peace. I'm really well. How are you?
I'm great. It's so exciting to have you here today. So I'll let you get started with your presentation and then we'll do questions at the end. So take it away, Katrina.
Okay, everyone, I'll just start sharing my screen and get, there we go. All right. So the first thing I'm going to ask you all to do if you're watching is go to speaker view. That way everybody else is basically hidden from view and you can see the full slide that way. So if you look at where the pictures are, speaker view is at the top and it's the grey shaded box. So if you click on that, you'll see me in the top corner and we'll go through the slides. That way you don't miss anything on the side of the slides. So let's get started. I'm just going to click on speaker view myself. There we go. I'm just going to move myself out of the way so I can see the slides as well. So good morning. My name is Katrina and I am the founder and I guess the owner of Stress Free Supermum. And today we're going to talk about the power of delegation. So what I'm going to go through first, I'm going to introduce yourself to me and a little bit of, I guess, how I got to where I am. We're going to talk about delegation, the Eisenhower principle, which some of you may be using. And if you haven't seen it before, I'm just going to introduce it because that's a whole nother topic of a workshop. We're going to talk about your hourly rate and if you've determined what that is yet. And I'm going to, I guess, use a metaphor or an example of going grocery shopping. And I'm going to go into some delegation categories, which is what I actually talk about in my chapter in the Back Yourself book. And then how you can contact me and also time for questions. So let's get started. So who am I? So I've just put a whole range of pictures up for you. A little bit of my background. I am a speaker and an international award winner. So I have won a number of awards for what I do. I have a number of degrees and postgraduate degrees, and I'm also a pretty cool friend. So I dropped that in there as well. I've spent the last, I guess, almost 28 years working for Qantas, which is the Australian airline, in many different roles. I started as a flight attendant. And the reason I started with Qantas is I was doing my master's at the time. I was working in retail and I wanted shift work to be able to finish my master's. So I was going to stay for 2 years and finish my master's, which I did. And then 28 years later, I'm still there. So, and loving it. I've had many different roles. I've been a manager now for 16 years with Qantas. I am a trainer and facilitator for them. Also have audited safety. I've audited training departments and I am still there and I love that job. So I call that my day job, and then I have what I call is my passion job, which is my coaching and speaking. We've talked the last couple of days about our why. So when we get into business, why we're in business, and this slide is about my why. So on this slide, you can see 2 of my boys. One of them is now my beautiful 13-year-old who has issues with his bowel, so has no bowel function. So you can see one of the pictures, he's hooked up to a machine. It's a TES machine that effectively activates his bowel for an hour each day. And the other picture you can see of him, his name is Andreas, is just after he had brain surgery. So my little boy has hydrocephalus, which is fluid on the brain. So we monitor that quite a bit. And the other picture you can see there is where my other little boy is, and he's actually in our local cemetery. So we lost him on Father's Day in 2010. He passed away in my husband's arms. And that is, I guess, my why. So when I started coaching, and I started 3 years ago yesterday, and it was because I got called out by another coach, and he said to me, you have a story that can help other mothers and you need to be telling it. So I started speaking about my story. And having been a trainer for many, many years and training somebody else's content, it's really hard to open yourself up and share your story. But once I started doing that, and I had other women coming to me and sharing their own story, and also saying to me, you're actually the first person I've told this to, or you're the first person I've admitted these emotions to, I knew then that that's what I was meant to be doing, was to be here and sharing my story with other mothers and other women to show them that you have a choice. And my choice is to get up every day with a smile on my face and joy in my heart, and to show other women that you can do that as well. So, and of course, my gorgeous husband, who supports me in absolutely everything I do. And we've had one of those years that I guess has been rough for anybody. For us in this household, both working for Qantas, we were both stood down in March. So we effectively lost our household income overnight, because my coaching, a lot of it is pro bono. And then my husband was diagnosed with cancer in May. So as you can imagine, this has been a big year for us. Add in home supervision. I don't call it homeschooling because I'm not a teacher. I'm there to supervise my son, not to teach him, because I couldn't even hope to teach my son. So we've had home supervision thrown in. So that's just a little bit of my story and a little bit of the reason why I got into coaching. Our son is also neurodiverse. And what that means is he thinks differently. His brain works differently to kids who learn from a standard point of view. So I've spent the last 13 years educating myself about that as well. And that's also how my coaching started, to help other mums of neurodiverse children. So let's get into delegation. Delegation to me is something that I want you to fall in love with, because even though as business women and mums, we think we can do everything, and we actually can't. And so I want all of you to fall in love with delegation, or I call it the gift of delegation, is because if somebody can do something 80% of how you can do it, and I'll pop the quote up there, delegate. And I know you're going to say to me, oh, but Katrina, they won't love my business like I do. They won't do it the same way that I do it. And I get that. And you've got to let that go. And the best way to start thinking about it is to start to delegate in the house. And we're going to talk about that later as well. So I've taken this definition from the Merriam-Webster dictionary, because this is my favourite definition of delegation. There's lots of different definitions, but I guess this would be my favourite one. It's the act of empowering to act for another. Because if you delegate something to somebody else, you're actually empowering them. You're not only giving them the gift of showing them, or them being able to show you the skills and knowledge they have, but you're giving them a gift of actually furthering those skills and knowledge, or learning something new, all the while you can support them while they're doing it. This is the Eisenhower principle. So it's a matrix, and some of you would have heard it, seen it before. I think Stephen Covey wrote about it in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's been around. I use this every day. I also get my clients to fall in love with this. And as I said, this is a whole other workshop, but it's a really good idea to do a brain dump. And that means get everything out of your head. And I get my clients, especially when we're doing things like decluttering, is to go room by room and brain dump. And then we pop them into these 4 categories. So the one category that I want you to fall in love with, I do want you to fall in love with the ditch as well, but the one category today I want you to fall in love with is the delegate category. So that's what we're going to be talking about. As I said, delegation is a gift. And it's not about avoiding work. It's about freeing up you so that you can spend more time in, I say, your expertise, your brilliance, your passion, and also, as I've mentioned, developing the skills and knowledge of the other person. Well, here's a thought. What about paying somebody to do the stuff that you don't know how to do or the stuff that you don't want to do? If your hourly rate is higher than what you can pay somebody else to do it, then that's what I want you to fall in love with, doing it that way. So if you don't know your hourly rate, excuse me, if you don't know your hourly rate, now this is a really simplified version. As I'll mention later, maths is not my forte, even though my first degree was a double degree, banking and finance and psychology, but let's just gloss over that. So my accountant and my financial planner will tell you something very different. So I want you to think about how many hours do you actually want to work each week in your business? Now, I know some of you, and we were talking last night, some of you actually, you know, it's hard to switch off from your business, but I want you to have business hours, especially as you work from home. As you can see, I do all my coaching from home. I'm sitting in my home office, the door shut. You can probably, oh, you can't in this view, but I've already got 2021 planner up on my door. But how many hours do you actually want to work each day? And how many days a week do you want to work? So I've just thrown up a really simple example. If I work 30 hours a week, so if I want to fit it in between school drop off and pick up, so that's 6 hours a day, I only want to work Monday to Friday, you know, assume 4 weeks off for holidays. Now I take more than 4 weeks off for holidays, but as I said, very simple example. And that's going to give you an hourly rate. And I've made an assumption, say you want your goal to be 100,000. Now, some of us want more than that and some of us want less than that, but trying to keep the maths really simple. So come up with an hourly rate of $69.50. So as I said, very simple calculation. I want you to work out what your hourly rate is. Now, to make this a little bit clearer, let's talk about going grocery shopping. Now, on average in Australia, we go grocery shopping 4 times a week. And it takes about an hour. Now, I've included in that hour, you know, it depends how far the shop's away from you. I have to drive to the shops. I can't walk. I live on property on 10 acres, so we'd have to drive. So driving to the shops, doing the shop, getting home, unpacking it. When I bring home groceries and things like that, those of that have been around me for a while and follow me on my Facebook page know that I do all my veggie prepping and everything as soon as I get home from the shop. So it might take a bit longer, but I've tried to keep, as I said, the math simple. So I've kept it to an hour. So if some of you might shop every day. Now I help all my clients to start meal planning. So we try and get down to 1 shop a week or even 1 shop a fortnight, because you can meal plan for a fortnight as well. So let's look at 4 hours a week. As I said, I keep my maths very simple. So let's assume 10 hours a day to make it easier. So each year, 215 hours just grocery shopping. If your hourly rate is that $69.50, $14,942.50 in lost earnings because you weren't working in your business, you were going grocery shopping. Or if your hourly rate is $100, you can see I've just rounded that up. Now, if you like grocery shopping, that could be your time out. I don't like grocery shopping. I'd much rather have somebody else grocery shop. I'd much rather have it delivered to my door and somebody else pick and pack it for me. But I just want you to start thinking about the activities that you're doing. Are you the one who needs to be doing those, or is your time better spent in your business? So who can you delegate the grocery shopping to? There was a really funny meme going around Facebook for a while, and it was something along the lines of, I know I shared it on my business page, something along the lines of, I actually did an online order. So you can go online and, you know, pre-order your groceries. I did an online order so I could just go to the supermarket car park and sit there for 2 hours by myself. So I don't want mums doing that. If you need to do that, let's work out another way of doing it. It was just meant to be a funny meme, but I thought it really highlights that sometimes we need that. So let's talk about some categories that I talk about in my chapter in the Back Yourself book. I'm going to talk about structure, knowledge, self, childcare, and of course the household. And if you're new to delegation, the household is always where I suggest that you start. So let's talk about structure. As I mentioned, even though my first degree was banking and finance, whenever I visit my financial planner, we have, well, he knows me well enough by now, but we have a little bit of a code. He can tell when I'm starting to glaze over, which means that either I lost him, or I'm hungry, or I'm just not getting it. So he knows to say to me, okay, Katrina, where do I need to go back to? Where did I lose you? Or he has donuts ready, because nothing beats a large pink ice donut for that sugar fix, just saying. So when I started my coaching business, anniversary is 3 years yesterday when I actually started training and doing my qualification, I realised that I needed somebody to help me with the business side. So that's what I mean by structure. So structure being, you know, your accountant, your bookkeeper, somebody who can look after the legal. And in this wonderful community of the Osmum community, you've got a lot of people there that can help you with that. I was really fortunate, my husband and I already had a consultancy company, so we already had a lot of that structure in place, and I just piggybacked off that. So I put my coaching within that consultancy company to start off with. But I still had questions. I still had questions around how I was going to set that up, how I was going to register for GST. Because you remember, up until this point, I've been an employee. I had somebody else who did that all for me. I was on a payroll. It's the same with training and facilitating. I would write a training program, or I'd have the company come to me and saying, you know, this is what we need to cover. So I'd write a training program. But then I had a whole department I could just hand it to, and they'd put it into slides and make it beautiful and just hand it back to me, and I'd facilitate it. So when I started coaching, I didn't have that. I didn't have a whole other department I could just give it to and say, okay, here it is, make it beautiful, make it pretty, make me look good. And then I could stand up in a room and deliver it to whoever I was delivering to that day, whether it was pilots, flight attendant, ground staff, lounge staff. So I already had it pre-made. But when you're out on your own, especially as a sole entrepreneur, so my company is just me, as I said, sitting in my home office coaching via Zoom or Skype or even by mobile, which means I'm able to work, you know, with everybody or people worldwide, which is wonderful. I didn't have that backup. So I needed then to find other people to help me. So that leads me into my next slide, which is knowledge. And what I've done, I've put up a nice little picture of a trophy. I won this one this year. I can't see, you might be able to see it behind me in the background. This is a gold Stevie, and I won this in the International Business Awards. I was actually meant to be in Paris to collect it, but COVID stopped that. Now, the reason I won this award is because I delegated knowledge. So I have an awesome PR company that do actually make me sound pretty amazing. it's true what they say, but there's no way I could write it the way they write it. So I win awards because not only do they make me sound good, sometimes it's embarrassing, but entering awards and going for awards, it really makes you look down and look at your business and actually look at how you're going and also where do you want to be. So it's a great way to actually, I guess, take a step back in time and look at what you've achieved and where you want to go with your business. And it's like taking an audit. I'm a qualified auditor. So it's like taking a step back and auditing your business and going, oh my gosh, there's so much I've achieved in this space. It just helps you collate all the information about your business. So things that I don't know how to do, I delegate out and I use other people's knowledge. Now, at the start, I didn't have any money for my business because my business at that time was mainly pro bono because I wanted to give back to the community. So at the start, when I was doing my videos for my courses and my programs, my son would edit them for $5 a video, just saying. So I would just hand them over to him and I'd be paying him. I don't know if that's child labour or not, but anyway, so Andreas was editing my videos for me and my husband was helping me set up the tech side of stuff because that's another thing where I need help. Now I'm more fortunate that, you know, I can go and get a website developed for me, or I can ask somebody to help me set up a payment system because I'm further along in my business. But when you're starting out, reach out to people around you, reach out to friends and family, because you never know what skills somebody's built up, you know, in their own home, especially from an IT point of view. And remember, there's some amazing outsourcing, you know, virtual assistants. There's fiber or outsourcing opportunities where you can get online and ask somebody to edit a video for you. So even when you're starting out for not much money, you can actually get people to help you and ask networks like the OzMum network. Reach out and ask for help when you're in the middle. And just remember, you can't do everything. When I first started out, I bought every course under the sun. You know, how to do a WordPress site, how to do this site. I bought how to understand messenger bots. I bought courses on Canva. I bought courses on how to do this and how to do that. And you know what? I bought so many courses. I got overloaded in courses that I would have spent all of my time just doing course after course, rather than doing what I love doing, is sitting here with my gorgeous clients and helping them input structure and organisation into their lives. So I had to take a step back and realise that I do everything, and being able to delegate to people that I know, like and trust, and who are my people. And that's another thing I want you to do, is find your tribe and being able to trust them and go, you know what, they mightn't do it 100% of how I would have done it, but the time it would have taken me to do it, I've missed out on spending time with the client. And they'll do it to 80% of how I would do it. So you need to lose that perfectionism trait. And I think Nicola said something about paralysis yesterday. She'll remind me. But you need to just do it. And just, if you've got a passion or something you want to share with the world, get it out there and just do it. So work out what you want to achieve, where your knowledge gaps are, and find somebody to fill those. And as I put on there, not a day goes by that I don't learn something. Okay, I'm learning all these things about my iPhone lately, but as I said, that's another story. Now, delegating self. This is the first thing I work with all of my clients on. Self is self-care. You need to look after you, because if you don't look after you, something's going to fall down somewhere else. And I think every one of my co-authors and everybody in this network, this is the same message we're all going to keep telling you until you start to hear it. You need to look after yourself. Now, if you have trouble doing that or putting yourself first, and I'm not talking about being egotistical or being a narcissist, what I'm talking about is looking after you. And that's not only physically, but that's mentally and emotionally. And if you need help, ask for help. So my husband's a good one. You know, he calls me, is it hangry? He always knows if I haven't, you know, had enough water or eaten, because I can quite happily go 10 hours without eating if I'm in the zone. We call it in the zone. If I'm busy coaching, and I go, okay, you need to stop and eat. And that's part of self-care. He'll actually look out for me. If you have trouble with self-care, book yourself into classes with other people. Coaching is all about accountability and having somebody else say, okay, you know, I'm looking out for you. These are the goals you want to achieve. And I'm going to be here with you, helping you get there. And I liken it to a personal trainer. So when you go to the gym and you have a personal trainer, it's very different to when you go to the gym by yourself. If you're by yourself, you mightn't do that final rep. But if a personal trainer is next to you, encouraging, supporting you, I call myself a cheerleader, you're going to do that extra rep. So you might need to delegate some of your self-care to a personal trainer. But definitely, I've written in there to girlfriends. I delegate my personal care to my girlfriends. They're the ones who know when I need a night out. And a night out for us is, you know, sitting around a table with a really good glass of red, laughing and joking, and we're all in our 50s. Actually, I will be 51 tomorrow. So that's a night out for us. You know, the night out where the next morning you wake up and your stomach hurts because you've just been laughing so much. And girlfriends are good for that. We have a thing with some of my really close friends. If we ring up and we say, I need to talk, the other person will say, okay, do you need me just to listen? Do you need me to give you advice? Or do you need me to fix it for you? And I also do that with my son as well. When he said, Mum, you know, I've got an issue, I go, okay, you know, what do you need from me? So I want you all to have, and I call it my Spark team, I want you all to have a Spark team. So if people know that you need some self-care and self-love, remember in the airline industry, we talk about putting your oxygen mask on first. Ask your girlfriends, reach out to your girlfriends. And that's why I've also put diary and planner in there as well, because I want you to start planning and scheduling self-care. And yes, massages and all of those wonderful things are self-care, but self-care could just be an half an hour sitting quietly with a cup of tea by yourself. It could be taking the dog for a walk. It could be working out how to say no. And I get no is hard, but no is a full sentence. Self-care is knowing your boundaries. Self-care is self-respect and not letting other people treat you how you don't want to be treated. Because how you treat yourself gives permission to other people to treat you the same way. So I want you to think about that. How you treat yourself or how you think about yourself is giving other people permission. If you look over my shoulder, I'll try and angle it a little bit better, you might see a charcoal drawing behind me on the wall. And there's a mirror above that drawing. Now that drawing is of me maybe 7 or 8. So whenever I come into my study, which is my home office, before I speak to a client, before I sit down to do any work, I check in with myself. I look in the mirror and whatever I'm thinking about or whatever negative thoughts or whatever I'm thinking about what's going on, I then say it to that little girl. And if it comes out all ways of wrong and I think, oh my gosh, there's no way I could say that to that little girl, it makes me stop myself. And I go, well, why am I saying it to myself? If I wouldn't say it to that little girl, why am I saying it to myself? So it's my check-in. So I do it every time I walk in and every time I walk out. I check in with myself. And I think, how's my self-talk going? If a negative thought comes in, I have to replace it with 3 positive thoughts. So that's self-care. And if you're having trouble with that, delegate it. Put it in your diary, put it in your planner. Book those massages, book the hairdresser. My favourite thing about the hairdresser is the head massage. I don't know about anybody else, but book those times in to look after you. I call it white space in your diary. I want you to fill the white space with yourself. And I help my clients go through a process of finding those white spaces so they can do that. So remember, find somebody to hold you accountable for your own self-care. Childcare is a big one for me. When Andreas was born, he screamed. So for the first couple of months, he screamed. He would sleep maybe 20 minutes at a time, and the rest of the time he screamed. So I ended up in a mother-baby unit at North Park Private Hospital here in Melbourne with severe postnatal depression, because suddenly I had a baby and I'd already lost 3 before Andreas. I had a baby that I thought hated me. Breastfeeding was torturous. Lactation specialists, the way they spoke to me, I took it as being all my fault. You know, I was doing something wrong. I couldn't do this mothering thing. So I decided that my baby needed a new mother, because obviously I was failing big time. And up until that point, I'd achieved and I achieved and I achieved, and I'd tried. I think by the time I had Andreas, I was either pregnant or trying to be pregnant, maybe for 8 years. And as I said, I'd already lost 3. Into the mother baby unit I went. Now, I was in there for months, and I talk a little bit about this in my chapter, so I won't go into it in more detail here. But anyway, before they would let me out, now it wasn't a prison, but before they would let me home with this baby, I needed to have childcare, and that was one of the things. So we organised family daycare, which a lovely woman called Liz, who was just amazing. We have no family close by where we live, and my husband is a long haul captain for Qantas, so of course travels a lot. So I needed help. So I needed to know that I needed the help. And I've put in there, you've all heard the quote, it takes a village to raise a child. I've changed that a little bit. It actually takes a village to raise a mother. So if you don't have support in your mothering journey, I want you to find it, because I needed it. And I needed to give up that mum guilt that I couldn't do it by myself. And I needed to find support to help me with that. So we started, as I said, a childcare one day a week and family daycare 1 day a week. And then when I went back to work, back to Qantas, we kept the family daycare. I talk a little bit about a nanny in my chapter, because after Andreas, I fell pregnant with triplets. I know, evidently as you get older, that happens. So yes, fell pregnant with triplets. We did lose the first 2 in utero, and then I was hospitalised for a long time holding on to the remaining one. So we started interviewing for nannies, because I thought, I'm going to need a nanny. There's no way I can do triplets by myself when my husband, you know, is overseas a lot of the time and not home. So that's when we started looking at that. Unfortunately, we actually didn't need the nanny, because Anton was born and died half an hour later. That was on Father's Day, as I said, in 2010. But we did start looking then into having an au pair. And I've been really fortunate. We've welcomed 10 now beautiful young men and women into our house, and they've all taught my son amazing things. Actually, one of our au pairs taught Andreas how to ride a bike. Another one would take him to swimming lessons. And that has been such a huge part of our family now. Having a child, an only child, which certainly wasn't what we intended. It's just the way it's played out. Having big brothers and sisters has been amazing for him. And then, of course, babysitters. You need to, in your diary, program date nights. If you're not already, I know a lot of you would already be doing this, but start programming date nights. Because when you become a mum, it doesn't mean you stop being a partner. So start programming date nights and find a babysitter that you know, like and trust, and put those in your diary as well. With the household, if you're a little bit unsure about delegation in your business just yet, start in the household. And I mentioned yesterday, I think on one of the, can't remember what it was in, but I haven't made a school lunch or touched a school uniform for years. So my son does all that for himself. He also cooks. You know, sometimes one night a week, he'll cook the dinner, because I believe as my job, I want my son to go out in the world knowing how to look after himself. And that's knowing how to clean a toilet and knowing how to cook and knowing how to look after finances. So we follow the Barefoot Investors pocket money ideas. So that's how he gets his pocket money. But he has chores that he has to do, that he gets actually pocket money for. And then we have family chores where he just has to do as part of the family. So I have what I call a Sunday setup, which I do with my clients to organise all that. So life skills can be taught in the home, and it's not using your kids as servants, and it's not just doing because you don't want to do it so you sit on the couch and just watch them. It's to teach them, and it's to teach them the skills while you're there, to be with them and being that helping hand. And remember, they're not going to do it the way that you do it. It took me a long time not to go into my son's room and redo the drawers. But you know what? His clothes are in the drawer. He knows where to find them. I don't have to touch them. So it gave me time back for myself. And it's all about time back. I call it buying your time back. Grocery shopping, as I said, not my favourite activity. My husband does a lot of that. Cooking, once again, not my favourite activity. My husband does a lot of the cooking. I can cook basic things, but I'm not a gourmet. I like eating food, but I don't get joy out of cooking food. I didn't grow up in a household where that was happening. So my husband loves to cook, so he cooks. Ironing, I would quite happily delegate to somebody else. When my husband and I were first going out, I ironed his shirts. We call them train tracks, you know, with 2 lines on the sleeves. Now, considering I spent time in the military, I know how to iron, but I made a mistake and my husband's never asked me to iron his shirts again, just saying. So remember, get used to it in the household. I had au pairs, we haven't had this year because of COVID, but au pairs living with us. So I came up with easy routines, clear instructions on how to not only turn on the washing machine, but to cook, and delegated all that stuff. A lot of the time because I couldn't be here to do it. So empower your kids. So to finish up, how to find me as part of this festival, I've just launched my new website, which is stressfreesupermum.com. Now, there's only one page there at the moment, but my web designer is building out the other pages as we speak. My coaching business, the ones where I support my gorgeous, wonderful neurodiverse mummies, so the ones parenting neurodiverse kids, is katrinawurm.com.au. And you can also find me on my Facebook business page, Katrina Wurm Empowerment Coaching. Just started Instagram, thought I'd finally get on Instagram. So I think I've only got 4 posts up there, but that's coming. But you can always email me. So reach out, let me know how I can help you. I can't wait for you all to read the whole book. The authors in this book are some pretty amazing, special women, and we're all opening our hearts and our souls and sharing our stories. So not only around business, but yeah, how we've got to where we are. We're sharing the ups and the downs. And I think if you can do that with other women, if you can actually open yourself up and be real and be vulnerable, the world would be a much better place. So we'll go. If there's any questions, I'll just go back to gallery view and let me know.
Thank you so much, Katrina. What an incredible story you have. So many challenges along the way, and yet you've kept going, you've worked through those challenges, and now you're helping other women. It's really beautiful and inspiring.
Thank you.
So I have a question. I really loved, would you be able to unshare this screen so we can see
Yep.
you? And I really loved when you talked about the strategy that you have with your girlfriends, where when any of you call each other, you say, what do you need from me? Do you need me to just listen? Do you need me to offer advice? And what was the other one? Do you need me to
Fix it?
Do you need me to fix it?
Yeah.
I loved that. Oh, that's such a beautiful strategy. Can you tell me how it evolved, how it came up, how you even approached this topic when you said to them, oh, let's do this when we talk to each other? Tell us a bit more.
It started, I guess, with my sister. She was going through a marriage breakup, and I tried not to coach friends and family because that's never a good idea. But we'd have conversations and she'd say, look, can I get your advice on this? And so I think it evolved through that, because some days I go, look, do you actually need me to fix this? Like, what do you need from me today? Because I don't want to overstep my bounds, especially with family. And she goes, I think I do, or I just actually want advice, or can I just run something by you? Because I'm a pretty blunt person. So I'm the friend that people will come to if they want me to give them the answer. And that's why I said to my girl, don't ask me if you don't want to hear the answer. So she'd say outright, like, what do you think of this? And I tell her. And so I think we started through that. And it's not something I invented or made up. I think I tripped over it, and probably maybe a seminar I'd gone to, because I'm one of these continual learners. And then I started it with Andreas at home. And then one day a girlfriend was telling me about a story and she's saying, this is happening, this is happening. And I said, look, how can I help you? She goes, oh, what do you mean? I said, look, do you want me just to listen? Because I don't want to butt in and offer advice if you just need that. Or do you want me to fix it? Or what do you need? And then it just became a thing, where we could ring each other and say, look, I've got this issue. And then we go, and we don't even have to say it now. We go, okay, what do you need? And I'll go, fix it, or advice, or just listen. And sometimes I think we need to do that with our partners as well, because I don't know about all of you, but I have men around me who want to fix. And sometimes all I need is a listen. So I do it with my husband too. And I go, no, don't need you to fix. Just need you, especially if it's, Qantas work. Sometimes I'll need to come home and just unload. And I'll go, oh, no. Just listen. And I go, okay. You can use it. And as I said, it's great with children, because sometimes we want to fix, and our children need to make mistakes. They need to fail. They need to come second or third or last in a race. They need that. And we can't fix that, because if we fix now, they're not going to work through or build up that resilience to be able to, take that further step to achieve. So I guess it was more an evolution from starting, I guess, with my sister.
I really love it. I just think, often women are so caring and nurturing and kind that we want to rescue people. We want to save them from their pain, but actually that's not always the best strategy. It's actually often more empowering to hold space for them and allow them to process through their emotions and come to their own solution that works for them, rather than just getting swept up and rescued. I feel like this strategy is so powerful for that, for allowing people to stand in their power and really own what they're going through and feel supported through what they're experiencing, but not lose their power.
Yes, definitely. And I think as a coach, one thing that I've learned to do is hold space, because I ask, some pretty direct questions And I know I've had clients say to me, oh, nobody's actually ever asked me that before. And I know when there's silence after I've asked the question and their brain's suddenly gone that snap of what? And I'll just hold space and I'll just wait. And I think, who said it yesterday? Might be Nicola, that, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So being able to hold space and just listen. And sometimes all you need to do is let the other person talk. And as they're talking, they actually resolve their own issue. They just needed to talk it out aloud with somebody else. And a lot of my coaching is not face-to-face. Like, I don't sit here and look at my clients, and I don't coach, in person, because a lot of what I do is holding that space. And it's, as a coach, what I want for my clients is I need to be able to kick their butt in a supportive, loving, caring way. And actually, I've had one of my clients say to me, you believed in me before I believed in myself. But I can't do that face-to-face, because when you're face-to-face with somebody, you fall into that emotional connection and that wanting to save and help and, fix the problem. But as a coach, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to empower them to take back their own life and work out a way that's going to be the best fit for them. I can give them suggestions. I will sometimes ask my clients, do you want me to put my mentor hat on, or do you want me to stay in my coaching space? But I don't look at them. A lot of the time I'm just a voice in the ear. And I find that opens up a whole level, I guess, of intimacy where people are more willing. I remember I had one client say to me, 4 kids under 10, all neurodiverse. So all being diagnosed with ASD. And she said to me, Katrina, I hate my children. And I said, that's okay. That's actually okay. I said, you're just overwhelmed at the moment, and we're going to get through that. And 3 months in, she rang me one night in tears. And I said, what's wrong? What's happened? And she said, I just wanted to let you know, I see now in my children what other people see. I actually love my children. Now, if I was sitting face to face with her in that initial conversation, that would have been hard for her to say. But because I'm a voice in her ear and I just give space and I don't try and fix, and I don't have all the answers, nobody does. But I guess, 50 years of experience has taught me a lot of stuff. But just being a voice in the ear sometimes who's only got your best interest at heart and comes from a heart place. And I truly believe that everything that's happened, like losing the babies, losing Anton, a lot of other stuff, and actually my life story is coming out, I think, early next year, the publisher said. So I've written a book about what's happened in my life and how I've got to here, but also, techniques that I use to help my clients. So it's a little bit, I guess, of a self-help book, but I talk about this a lot in my book as well, called Wear Your Warrior, which is about stepping into your greatness and taking back. So if somebody's ever taken something back from you, is to take it back again and go, you know what, I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. I'm exactly in the place of, where I'm meant to be. And I am in the place I'm meant to be. And everything that's happened to me up at this point is because I was meant to be here. I was meant to be helping other mums. I was meant to be showing mums of neurodiverse children that their children are wonderful. Their children don't need to be cured. Their children aren't disabled or have some sort of deficit or, should be shunned from society, or they are beautiful and they have gifts, and we need to find their gifts and fall in love with their gifts. And each child is special. And neurodiverse people, I think, are here to all teach us something. And if you look at, I'm getting on my soapbox, you can tell where my passion is. If you look at every advancement in not only literature, but in the sciences, in medicine, in any major advancement in the world, there is a neurodiverse brain behind it. So if you think about Einstein and people like that, you know, Musk, who's just basically going to take people, you know, to the moon, all neurodiverse brains. A lot of comedians are neurodiverse brains. And my son has a brain that they still haven't worked out how it works yet. He's absolutely amazing. He was told at 4 he wouldn't need primary school because of how his brain processes information. So we need people to know that we can hold space for them. We need people, we need other women to know that we can support them. We need a group of women to come together and talk about this stuff, talk about, you know, miscarriage, talk about losing children, talk about having children that don't follow a standard path that the education department, who don't follow the standard milestones that the childcare nurses. We need to be open and having these conversations so that we're not sitting at home thinking, did I do something wrong? Or why is my child different? Or, you know, how are they going to fit into this world? We need to be supporting each other as mothers, and however that looks, whether you're a helicopter mum or a concierge mum or a whatever mum or parent you want to be, we need to stop questioning other people's mothering choices, and we need to come together as females because we can change the world. And I live by the starfish story. I don't know if people know it, but it's a parable of, you know, a whole beach full of starfish and a little boy's throwing them one back at a time. And a man says to him, well, you know, you can't save them all, mate. And he says, yeah, but I just changed the life of that one. And I think that's what my coaching is about. If I can change the life of one who will then go home to her family and start waking up, you know, with joy in her heart and a smile on her face, that creates a ripple in a pond. And if we can all do that and wake up with gratitude and give true compliments to a stranger in a lift, and that's just, I think that's what we're all here for, is to, and I think COVID's taught us that we don't need a lot of stuff, but what we need is that human connection. And we found other beautiful ways of connecting with other humans, you know, around the world throughout COVID. And we need to keep that up. We need to keep that connection going and to praise and, you know, raise other women up. And this is what all these women in the book are doing. All the co-authors in my book, I think we're all on the same soul journey, is to be here to support other women. And that's what I love about it.
Yeah, I agree. And we rise by lifting others, and we're better together. And, you know, all of us, when we're writing our chapters for this book, it was all about, well, what gift can I give to someone else? How can I help someone else who's on this journey as a mum, as an entrepreneur, as a woman living their life? How can I help them to learn from the mistakes and challenges I faced? And what's the special advice and messages that I want to share through my chapter with these women? So yeah, we're surrounded by incredible women in this project. It's really beautiful.
And you've done an incredible thing with bringing us all together, because we wouldn't all be here without you and Katie. So, and of course Karen, our gorgeous publisher. And that's a gift as well. It's a gift that you have of bringing like-minded people together. And that's a beautiful soul-centered gift, because I truly believe, you know, the unlived life of a mother is too much of a burden of a child to carry. Because if we're not living our true life, and I remember saying to Andreas once when I came out of, because my door's shut if I'm coaching a course, and he knows he's only allowed to come in if there's blood. So the door's shut. And I came out one day and I sat on the couch with him and said, oh, dude, you know, I know mum's, you know, busy coaching, you know, working for Qantas. I said, I know, you know, that might be taking time away from you. I said, how do you feel about it? He said, oh, no, mum, I love it. He said, you get to help other mummies. And I just went, what are we showing our children? And I remember I was speaking at a conference, and a lot of my clients I've never met in person, especially, you know, overseas ones, of course. And he said, can I come to the conference? I said, yeah, sure, because I was going to present, and he came with me. And one of the clients that I actually hadn't met, she saw my name and she said, oh, can I come over and meet you after? And I said, of course. So she came up to me and she said, oh, hi, and who it was, and Andreas is with me. And she looked at me and she said, Katrina, can I ask you something? I said, yeah, sure. She said, can I hug you? I went, of course. And so she gave me a big hug and she said, thank you so much. And I said, you're more than welcome. And then as she left, Andreas looked at me and said, do you know that lady? And I said, well, I sort of do, but I've never met her. And he said, why did she want to hug you? I said, I don't know. She just wanted to thank me. And that's how she wanted to thank me. And he sort of looked at me and goes, okay, that's pretty cool. So, you know, we need to not only be lifting other women, but show our children that that's the way to live as well. And, you know, show our children that, you know, they can be good, gracious, gifted people. And another thing I get all my clients to do is have family values, like sit around and actually come up with their family values. And I have our family values, actually, I'll grab them. You know, our family values stay with us all the time, and it's accountability, continuous learning, gratitude, contribution, and create versus consume. So, you know, that's what I say to people like my clients. You know, if another family was going to speak about you over their dinner table, what would they say about your family? And they go, oh, I said, well, think about it. And if you don't like what they were going to say, what do you want them to say? And then let's start living that life. So I know what other families say about our family because it's how we live our life. And I think that's all wrapped up in, you know, what you are doing with the Osmompreneur Network, and the business network is being able to uplift and support these women. So not only so they can be beautiful and creative and share their passion with the world, but also so that ripple effect goes into their families and also raises another generation of children who just see this as normal, you know, who see the contribution and giving back to the community. And that's why I always do pro bono work. And my son knows I do it, and I do it because there's mums out there, if I can just make their day a little bit better by just having a conversation and just showing them that, I think on my website, I say, hey, I've been in that hole. I know a way out. You know, let me help you. You know, I've got the ladder. I'm not going to climb in the hole with you, but I'm going to help you get out of it. And that's what having a network of women around you, and as I said, I call my friends my spark team, because they're the people I laugh with. They're the people, I think somebody mentioned ugly crying, you know, we've been through a lot. They all came to my son's funeral and held me afterwards, you know, while I lost it. That's what we need to have in our lives is, you know, people who you can ring at 2 o'clock in the morning. They go, okay, what do you need? Do you need me to fix it? Do you need me to give you advice, or do you need me just to listen? And the more we create networks like that, the better the whole world will be.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, Katrina, so much wisdom and value in what you've shared this morning. It's just been so beautiful. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
So that concludes our first workshop presentation. Now it's my great pleasure to introduce our next session, which is an author panel where you'll get the opportunity to meet some of our wonderful authors and chat with them. Just arriving. So I would love to start by getting our authors to introduce themselves. So we've got Leanne Myrna here. Hi, Leanne, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm really good. So for people who haven't met you before, Leanne, would you be able to tell us a bit about who you are and what you do in your business?
Yep, so I am a mum of 5 little men, and I have a business making educational resources, so all Australian theme educational resources. So I've also just written the first of a series of children's books teaching kids about Australian flora and fauna. So in my chapter, I have what drives you to do what you do. So a lot of my story is obviously a very personal journey that I've taken from being told you'll never amount to anything as a child. So I think that's definitely where I've got a lot of my drive from. And yeah.